What is human design? Like, if you have 2 minutes with someone in an Uber, how are you explaining what human design is?
So, human design is a mystical assessment. It is based on your time, date, and place of birth, and it reveals how you are wired to thrive in every area of your life, from relationships to career to parenting. And my experience is that it really just gives people like their own custom roadmap to like showing up in life in a way that feels really authentic and true to them. And I always say human design is equal parts mystical and practical. It is, of course, mystical. It comes from our birth information, but it is equally practical. What it speaks to is how we make decisions, how to structure our day to day, how to find our way into better opportunities, how to really collaborate with others effectively. So it gives us a lot of tools that we can integrate and apply almost immediately.
I mean, I know people love, zodiac signs and they love their astrology because it gives a lot of insight, but it seems like human design goes a little bit more deeper with like, here's how you show up, here's how you're living your life, like, here's decisions you can make about what's best for you.
Yes, yes, it's so specific. There are broader categories, of course, but it gets so nuanced that nobody really has the same design.
What really makes a difference between astrology, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, like any of these other personality things? What is different about human design?
When you look at Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, like those are systems that you assess based on a questionnaire, honestly, just listening and see where you fall. My experience, and I honestly love Myers-Briggs, but my results are often different depending on where I am in my life and why I'm asking those questions. Human design is different. It's based on your birth information. I think what I appreciate about that is that I have spent a lot of my life trying to be everything that I'm not, according to my human design. And so even with Enneagram, I identified with like achiever and being a 3 when like so much of my design is like deconditioning myself from that. So it kind of speaks to our true nature that we can't always access immediately or maybe even know ourselves because we maybe haven't been living it. And then I think, with astrology, I love astrology, and human design and astrology are very complementary. Astrology plays a role in human design. It helps generate the chart. I would just say that human design is very mechanical. Like it is like, what is our operating system? How do we work with it on a day-to-day basis? Whereas I think astrology can speak to kind of broader personality themes and also the cycles that we're moving through in our life in a broader way. So I find they work really well together. And human design is kind of like, how do you move and experience your day-to-day in a way that feels more authentic?
You bring up such a great point about like these personality tests and things we talk about. So much of our personalities and also our life decisions have a lot to do with what we've been conditioned to, not our true nature, not our true self, our true path. It seems like human design really helps you get back to like, not what does society want me to do, not what does my parents want me to do, not what have I been conditioned to want or to be, but who am I actually and what am I actually meant for is like the crux of human design.
Totally. What I love so much about the experience of sharing human design with people is that they recognize it. When I first learned my human design, I was like, wow, like that feels like the truest thing I've ever heard. And yet my life does not reflect that. It tends to be very familiar to people. Like it's spoken and they're like, oh, I get that. Like I might not be living it, but I see it. And I really appreciate that because I think human design just speaks the language people already know about themselves and it just gives them a whole lot more permission to step into it.
Does that happen often? Like, more often than not, would you say that people are like, "I'm not living that, but I resonate with that?"
I would say it's one of 2, and obviously there's a spectrum, but I think either can be really affirming where people are like, "Oh, yes, this is exactly who I am. Thanks for giving language to it. Now I can like step into it more." But like I learned that throughout my life and human design is just affirming it. And then there's the other version, which I think probably happens more often to people when they're a little bit younger, but honestly across the spectrum is when people feel really confronted by it. And that was my experience of being like, "Wow, what you're saying is so true. And I've been ignoring this for a long time. So what does it
Mm.
look like to change it?" So I see both experiences and yeah, there's no good or bad here, but I think human design tends to validate the things we already know, whether or not we've chosen to live them.
Yeah, it's like recognizing an inner truth, whether or not that reflects our reality. It's like the still a truth that we know either way.
Yeah, and I think often the feedback I get in sessions is people saying like, "You are giving me language for a thing I've never had language for before. You're
Mm.
giving me language for a thing that like, oh, I do actually make decisions that way," or like, "Yeah, I do collaborate best that way," or like, "I do need to leave the house and do this thing." And like, I've always done that without really realizing it. And now that you're giving me a framework around it, I can own it in a different kind of way. I think at its most fundamental level, it just gives us kind of a language and a framework for how we operate, which is obviously incredibly useful when it comes to collaborating with other people and being able to articulate, this is how I make decisions and this is the way that I receive love and this is how I work best, and like let me understand how you work best, because I sit with so many couples who are experiencing so much friction, not because there's a fundamental disconnect, but just because they don't understand how one another works. And so once they understand it, they're like, you're not wrong for moving more slowly or working less or making decisions faster. You're just different.
You know, that famous quote that's like, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb the tree, it will spend its whole life something like that. Like, I
Yeah.
think that that's so much of what we do in our lives is trying to fit molds into other people. It sounds like human design really gives you that validation of like, this is not because I'm wrong if I feel differently about these things, if, I want something different than I've been told to want, or I feel differently than I've been told it's okay to feel, it's like that validation of like, oh yeah, this is how I'm supposed to be, instead of this feeling of like something's wrong with me.
Yes, totally. And it's so crazy because I feel like so often we make ourselves wrong for the thing that actually makes us us. Like, for example, and I'll just use you as an example. And I have no, we've never talked about your human design, so I have no idea whether or not it resonates. But, you are called a manifesting generator in human design, which means you are meant to be quite multi passionate and multidimensional by nature. But a lot of manifesting generators I've sat with feel like a lot of guilt and shame around that, where it's like, oh, I'm scattered. Like, I've got to choose one path. I've got to be super linear. Like, that's where success comes from, when like their success comes from like variety and freshness and changing things up and pivoting and evolving. And so often manifesting generators have made themselves wrong for that like core piece of who they are. And human design reminds them, like, you're meant to be so many things. That's not a thing to run away from, but a thing to step into.
That is so funny that you say that. That makes so much sense for sure. That really checks out. What's the most common, this is too woo woo criticism that you get? And what's your response?
Oh my gosh. Well, I honestly don't get a lot of like criticism around it's too woo woo because I don't really present it that way. I don't honestly have a whole lot of experiences of people not resonating with it, which is like just a little bit crazy because I worked with like many tens of thousands of people. But
Yeah.
the criticism might be like, what if I don't want to do that? It's like my answer is like, then don't. The way that I tend to frame human design, which is unlike many people, and I'm not very dogmatic about the system. So I always say what matters most to me is not whether the system is true, it's whether it's useful. And so I think that like if somebody's coming to me and expecting me to try to convince them that their human design is true, like it's not going to work. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm offering a new language or framework. You choose to see if it's actually useful for you. So I don't get a lot of pushback, mostly because I don't try to do a lot of convincing.
Yeah,
Like I
you're not
just
in
try
the
to,
habit of convincing. Yes.
no, it's like if it's
Yes.
useful, amazing. If it's not, let it go. And I think on the other hand, I actually have a lot of skeptics that are like, that are so funny because they're like, I really don't want to believe this because this feels way too woo woo. And like, how could we ever know this much information? And then they hear the information and they're like, and yet it feels like you've been following me around for like a decade. How would you ever know this? Like, now I want to know everything about everyone around me. So it is funny to see people's response to it. But yeah, I mean, I think that like, I agree that it's incredibly wild that we could ever know this much information about ourselves. That doesn't make sense to me. I can't fully grasp that. And yet, I've had the experience over the past decade of sharing this information with people and watching it just land in ways that feel undeniable and inexplicable. And
Mm.
so it's useful. So I'm continuing to do it. It's been incredibly useful in my own life. It's been incredibly useful as a mother, as a friend, as a parent, as a wife. And so that's why I share it. But I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything.
What was it that first called to you about human design that got you into this work?
I had such a wild experience where I was living in New York City. I was 25 years old. I felt a little bit just like not super aligned with my work. I was consulting for a number of different startups and it was fun, but like I just didn't feel like I was like doing my thing. And I went to a friend's party in on the Lower East Side and I sat next to a stranger and the stranger asked to read my human design chart. And I had never heard of human design before. It was incredibly fringe at the time, but I was like, tell me everything this weird system has to say about me. I'm here for the insights. Tell me what you do. And he proceeded to give me the most insightful reading I'd ever received. And like I said, it really put language to my inner experience in a way that was so revelatory. He told me that I wasn't really designed to be a doer. I was better suited to be a guide, a leader, a teacher. I had been trying so hard to be a doer. He told me opportunities best came to me through invitations, through having somebody like see me and recognize me. And I had been like hustling and pushing and forcing. And he told me I was meant to make decisions by sleeping on things and feeling into things. And I had been like trying to be so spontaneous and impulsive and also incredibly regretful. So it just felt like he was presenting an alternate reality that felt way better. And so that felt really good. I think that if the conversation had ended there, I probably would have like dug into it and been really curious and learned about myself, but I'm not sure I would have done anything more. But he actually ended that conversation by saying, Erin, I think you're meant to do this. I know.
Wow.
I know. It was crazy. I met him that night. He was like, I think you're meant to share human design. I want to do this with you. I want to teach you. He'd been studying it for a decade. It was just like one of those moments I look back on and it's just like, God, what if I hadn't gone to that party? What if I hadn't done that thing? And it was not a yes immediately for me. I took my time. I learned more from him about all the things that human design could tell us. But the more I learned, the more it made sense to me. And so I said yes to studying with him. We built a business together for a few years before I went off on my own. And it's been a wild journey, of course, but I think it just made sense to me. I think what actually made the most sense at that particular moment in my life is that I was working at a number of startups where there was a lot of dysfunction. It felt like it was like such amazing people that just didn't know how to work together. And so human design to me made a lot of immediate sense to me as a tool to help people better understand each other within teams. It's obviously expanded far beyond that. I work with individuals and families and all the things, but I was like, wow, if people really understood one another's way of working, I think that they could make things happen in a way that felt better and also would be a lot more effective.
So I want to get into what are the different types and everything, but first, can you explain how someone can find their human design in case someone wants to pause, go find what they are so that when you're explaining it, it kind of can resonate
Of
personally?
course. I recommend you look up your chart at humandesignblueprint.com. You'll need your time, date, and place of birth. If you don't know your precise time, I would use the closest approximate you know.
Perfect. So everyone pause, go do that if you don't know your human design. Now, I would love for you to walk us through the different types and kind of I know that there's so much information. There's so much we can learn about the types, but like just
Yeah,
what's the brief overview that
high
really
level.
differentiates them, high level from each one? Yeah.
Okay. So manifesting generators, I'm going to start with you. So manifesting generators, like I shared before, are incredibly multi-passionate, multi-dimensional people. These are people that need variety, freshness, change. These are my clients that are like, I'm a coach. I'm also opening a dance studio. I'm like considering going back and going to law school at night. Like they just need diverse interests. They need every day to look a little bit different. These are people that also are incredibly fast. Once they're clear that something's right for them, they can often be the fastest person in making that thing happen, which means they can sometimes be disappointed at other people's comparatively low capacity and slowness. And so, really kind of appreciating their speed without expecting others to match it. And these are people that are so magnetic, so uplifting, so passionate. Like when you're around a lit up manifesting generator, like you cannot help be lit up as well.
Oh my God, I love that. Thank you so much.
How does that all feel to you?
Especially the thing that you said about, like, wanting to do so many things. Like, I, for my whole career, have been the podcast host. I'm also the wellness editor. I also have my own coaching company. So it, like, really makes sense, and I'm like, I have so many different things that I wanna be doing and love doing. Yeah, it checks out for sure, and I definitely have that frustration with some people that I love that I like, if that's what they want, I'm like, "Then let's do it," and they're like, "No, no, I'm not ready." Like, it makes me frustrated. So it all makes sense. Everything you
Yeah.
said checks out.
And the one piece I didn't share is that, you're also somebody, like I said, who's very magnetic. So you're not really meant to like chase after everything in your life. You're actually meant to just like see what shows up, what sparks your gut. And then once your gut like lights up in response, then you can like be the biggest powerhouse in making that happen. But waiting for that kind of gut feeling and expansive feeling in your body before you jump
Ooh, okay, that's so helpful to know. I'm gonna
in.
track things to me. No more chasing.
No more chasing when you're
I
doing
love
what
it.
actually satisfies you. It's just like you can't help but bring more things your way. So generators are very similar here. They were also very natural doers, a lot of capacity, a lot of resource, but for them, there's a little bit more of like kind of a steady, masterful, committed energy. They might enjoy kind of diving deeply into one thing and then to the next. And they also might enjoy kind of the step-by-step process of making something happen. They're also super magnetic. And I would say a big lesson for generators is around boundaries because they have such capacity. People can look to them to handle so many things. And so one of their lessons is to really kind of trust their gut feeling to see what they feel genuinely available for and let that be the thing that guides them. We've got projectors. This is my type. So I shared a little bit about this in my discovery of human design, but projectors are very naturally suited to be leaders, guides, teachers, coaches, not here to do all the doing. Projector energy really ebbs and flows. So building in a lot of space and rest and pause in your days is so, so key. And also, projectors tend to love systems like human design. They're so wise about people naturally that a system like human design or astrology or Enneagram or Myers Briggs is a way to kind of hone and deepen this wisdom they already carry. But I would say a big lesson for projectors is disentangling their worth from how hard they work and how much they do. Manifestors are very innovative people, people that are so good at getting new ideas started. They're really good at just bringing new ways of doing things into the world. But their gift is not always following that thing through and carrying it to the end. And so, really giving themselves permission to kind of hand things off and start another thing. Their gift is really at the beginning. Their energy is very bursty, which means they might be super on fire for a couple of weeks or a couple of days or a couple of hours. And that period of inspired action might be followed by a need to kind of pull back and rest and be alone. So, really allowing the ebbs and the flows and not forcing consistent momentum. And these are people that value freedom to do what they want, when they want, how they want. You might identify with that too as a manifesting generator. So really kind of having that in their days, even if they work for other people, if they can carve out as much autonomy as possible. The final type is a reflector. This is the rarest type. These people are such incredible mirrors of the world around them. And because of that, they are really, really sensitive to their space. So being in the right space, being in the right environment, the right restaurant, the right city, the right office makes such a difference. So really being very mindful around their surroundings and being very ruthless about their surroundings, people and places. And reflectors are so cool in that they're incredibly fluid. They might identify with every single type. They might feel differently every single day. And so their job is not to try to be just one thing or have just one purpose, but appreciate that they're here to express themselves in many different ways over the course of their life.
It's so interesting to hear the differences. So there's 5 types total, is that 5?
That's right.
Our audience is really big on manifestation. What do you think is the biggest ability or the biggest way that you've seen human design help people achieve their dream life, whatever that looks like, and manifest whatever they want?
Two pieces come to mind. Every human design, every type has a strategy, which is basically kind of around how you are meant to find your way into the next thing. And so I feel like that is often a really big piece for people because they often are not doing that. So, like for you as a manifesting generator, this is true for generators too. When you do things every day that just bring you a lot of joy, that bring you a lot of satisfaction, it could be, recording the podcast or doing like going to yoga or the food that you eat or the people you spend time with or the work that you do, you just draw so many more things your way. So I would actually say the best path towards big and better opportunities in your life is to make your satisfaction a daily priority and see that not as a selfish choice, but as the most generous thing you can do because it gives you so much more energy. And I think what's also so cool about that is that you might have a very specific idea about what you want, but when you're doing what lights you up, something else comes into your world and it lights you up in ways that you didn't expect, and your body says yes, and you go after it. And it's like way cooler than anything you could have even imagined in the first place. So, like, I actually think that like your journey is meant to be a little bit unexpected. It's meant to be following the crumbs, and the work that you can do, the practical thing that you can do is carving out time every day to do the things that bring you joy and trust that that's the best path towards that.
Erin, that is so wild. My audience is laughing, I'm sure too, if they know me and have listened to the episodes, because what I say all the time is like your well-being, your joy is your greatest investment for your career because it allows you to show up differently. So like maybe it's
Mm.
just me. Maybe it's
Yeah,
just for
maybe it's
me.
just you.
I literally say that all the time, and that's been so true for me of like every major point in my career, getting the podcast, like all of these things happened when I was really focused on like my joy and well-being. And so it's spot on. You're already spooking me. It's already so accurate.
It is spooky. But so again, it's like, you also might be like, okay, I have a really specific idea of what I want. And again, it's not to dissuade you from that because you're somebody who actually can really zone into the details in that way. But I would actually say that's kind of the core piece to focus on. For projectors, it's actually really around being invited into things. So there are two pieces I would recommend kind of on a more practical level. As a projector, I would kind of consider what is the thing that you want to feel recognized for? Like, where are the places in your life that you feel the most genuinely recognized? Like, for example, like I worked at companies in the past where like they were like, oh, you're good at certain things, but like it just didn't make me feel like deeply seen. I was like, I'm fine at them, but that's not really what I want to be known for. So I think as a projector, like taking the time to kind of recognize like what you want to be known for, what you want to be seen for, and really just like recognizing that yourself, because when you really recognize and see it clearly in yourself, you make it so much easier for others to see it too. And I think sometimes projectors forget that piece where it's like, I want others to see me, but they don't see it yet. So I would say that's a really good, important first step and really kind of honing the skills or the things that you feel drawn to. And I think secondly, projectors, like I said, are here to be invited in. Like how the best opportunities in your life are meant to emerge is exactly how human design showed up in my life, where you meet somebody or something happens and somebody just sees you so clearly and opens up a door for you. There's an invitation that maybe you didn't expect. Part of the way that we can make ourselves available for that as projectors is to make ourselves visible, not to necessarily be like, I'm going to go pitch this job, but like, let me just share about what I'm thinking about and who I am, whether it's at a party or with a friend or on Instagram or on a podcast, and like let the right people kind of resonate with my energy and come to me. And I will just say, when I look back at all the biggest and best opportunities in my life, and this includes my husband, it includes all the last jobs that I had, it was meeting somebody who just saw a thing in me and just was like, there's just something there and invested in it. And like, it just opened up a door I never could have imagined. So just making yourself visible, letting yourself be seen, letting those doors, be open. For manifestors, I would say manifestors are here to initiate. The only type that are just here to kind of like follow these urges that emerge within them without any kind of external cues. So I would actually say one of the best things that you can do for a manifestor, which I know sounds a little bit weird, is to spend more time alone without stimulation. Because often when manifestors are kind of releasing all the need to do all the time, they create space for new ideas and inspirations and urges to bubble up within them. And those are the things they're meant to pursue. They don't need any external confirmation. And I think if they are in this position of just doing, they actually make themselves unavailable for those ideas to come. And so I would actually say kind of carving out space and time alone and kind of seeing what bubbles up within you and then trusting yourself enough, trusting your visions enough to follow them is the best path towards kind of watching things happen you maybe never could have imagined possible. And the final type is a reflector. I love this one. The best opportunities for them emerge when they're in the right spaces. So I would actually say the most proactive way to kind of get yourself into the best flow in your life is to think about the spaces in your life that feel the best. It's like, I love this coffee shop. I love this restaurant. I love this co working space. I love this like online community. And just spend more time there without expectation and see what arises. Being in the right space around people that uplift you is the path towards things coming your way. And you also can be even more proactive about this, where you're like, wow, I really want to start a company. Let me surround myself by more entrepreneurs because I'm going to amplify whatever it is they're bringing to the table. I want to, be more creative. Let me surround myself by more art, by more artists, and kind of see what that brings out in me. So reflectors are so incredibly sensitive, and you can use that to your advantage by planting yourself in spaces that you want to amplify, that you want to emulate.
It's so cool to hear the differences because we're so used to thinking of like, the hustle culture of if we want this dream career or there's something that we want to do, we have to like hustle, 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 work so hard. And like the path is always supposed to be really hard for everybody instead of understanding that the inspiration, the opportunities, all of these things come differently for everyone because of our different type. I've interviewed so many very successful women. They all have a different story of when things clicked, when everything came
Mm.
together and they realized what they were meant to do, or they found the opportunity, or for a lot of people, which probably maybe are more projectors, someone saw something in them. And it's always so interesting. Like now I'm looking at all of these different people I've gotten to interview of like, it makes sense how they have these different paths. And I'm sure it's based on their different types, but like it's not about hustling so hard trying. It's like there's something to lean into, like a strategy, like you said, to be able to get the inspiration or the opportunities in order to get to where you want to be.
Exactly.
What about relationships? Let's talk about that. How each type, like what they should know about relationships and how knowing your human design will help them in relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship or at work, whatever.
Perfect. So I would say for manifesting generators, like I would really trust your gut feeling when it comes to people. If you're at a gathering and your gut lights up in response to somebody across the room, like go talk to them. Same as like on a dating app. You might convince yourself that you should stay in a thing or be with somebody because they make sense or they're friends with your other friends. But trusting your body to kind of guide you, your gut is your greatest compass. But I'd also say as a manifesting generator, like you're a really dynamic person. So you're going to want to be in relationships that can like hold that. They don't have to be as fast as you. They don't have to do as much as you, but like they've got to appreciate it. Sometimes people are threatened by manifesting generators and it's like, choose just one thing or like stick with this thing or like, why did you quit this thing when you're doing it 6 months ago? And I think having people that appreciate kind of your dynamic, ever evolving nature is so, so important. And again, it's not about it being matched, it's just about it being respected. And also having like a lot of space as a manifesting generator, kind of go do the things that bring you joy, even if it doesn't involve the other person, because you will come back a rejuvenated person. I tell a story in my book around a client building like a woodshed in his backyard where basically he would like retreat from his family once a day to kind of go do his woodworking and then kind of return so enlivened. And so like he had to make space for himself to do that because he knew it would bring out the kind of the best version of him. How does that land for you in your relationships?
Literally so much. Something that I say, I've been with my fiance for over 8 years, and so something I always say is how much like our relationship has changed and he has been such like a grounding force of whatever new thing. Like I've had 10 different ideas of like what I want and different lives, and that he's just been the same anchor and support in all of them. I always say that about him. And so it like lines up so much with what you're saying of someone that just like appreciates that part of you instead of that gets like overwhelmed or doesn't see the value in it. Like that it really it's so in line with what you said that I have felt for years.
I love it. Yeah. And just like having that ever evolving nature be really respected, which it sounds like it absolutely is. And again, not
Yeah.
having it need to be matched. With generators, there's a lot of similarity. I would really kind of trust their gut feeling in terms of who they feel very naturally drawn to, even if it feels inexplicable. I would also say generators are so capable that they can end up caring a lot in relationships, like just have a lot of responsibilities, handle everything, feel like it's really imbalanced. And so I would just remind the generators that, as tempting as it might be to hold so much, I would really set boundaries where you can and make sure you're saying yes to the things that like you genuinely feel excited and available for, because it's going to give you so much more energy and not burn you out. And I think it's also important for you to feel really valued in your relationships. Like it is recognized how much you bring to the table. It is recognized how precious your energy is. Like, that you're not asked to do things just because you can, but people are genuinely interested in like, do you actually have the energy for this? Do you actually feel excited about this? And kind of letting that be the thing that guides them. Projectors, it is so important for us in relationships to feel very recognized and seen, like just where we don't have to like convince others of our worth, but they just get it. Projectors tend to love words of affirmation, like feeling very specifically acknowledged. Having somebody say, like, I love the way that you approach this issue, or I love the perspective you brought on this. That's the thing that kind of like unlocks so much for projectors. I'd also say as a projector, like you might find that your energy is a little bit inconsistent at times in terms of what you have the energy for. And so being able to take alone time guilt free, to be honest when you don't really have the energy for something, and just being able to kind of honor where you are is going to be the thing that makes relationships sustainable. Projectors also love depth. They love going very deep. They love having a lot of one on one time. So, like, having that be a priority. Manifestors need a lot of freedom in relationships. So being in relationships where they feel free to like go on a trip and do the thing when they want to, to like come home late, to do what they want, as long as they're communicating clearly what they're doing. Manifestors also don't love being pestered with questions. Like they like sharing when they really feel inspired to. So also not having people that are trying to like lead them or guide them or tell them what to do or ask them all these things, but really are respectful of like what they're available for and when. I'd also say manifestors, their energy is very ebbing and flowing, where they just have these periods of like being so on fire and periods where they really got to rest and be alone. So having that be respected by others. Manifestors are like, they just see things before anyone else does. And so it's important for them to be in relationships where like that vision is respected. People don't have to understand the vision, but like to not like, be like, oh, there's nothing there, or you shouldn't do that because it's too out there. They can be bold, they can be big, they can be like that is encouraged within them and they feel empowered to step into that. And then for reflectors, reflectors are so sensitive to other people's energy. So it just means you must be so mindful of who you're surrounding yourself by, and being surrounded by people that are very mindful of how impactful they are on your energy. And also, I think in relationships as a reflector, like it's important to articulate to others how sensitive you are to space. Like if you walk into a restaurant and you don't like the table, leave. If the hotel doesn't feel good, find another one if you can, and so just having people that really honor that. And then I think similar to manifesting generators, like reflectors' gifts is their gift is so much in their perspective and how they see things and not in their consistency. And so not having somebody that expects you to show up in the same way every day because they will be disappointed. Like that's just not how you do things. You are
Mm.
different. You are ever evolving. You're changing. There are going to be so many different versions of you, so many different seasons to your life, and having somebody so willing to meet you there without expecting you to always be the same.
See, this is so helpful to know in relationships because it is like love languages, but so much deeper of like how people feel validated, what's important for them, what they need in a relationship to feel fulfilled. Like getting to have that understanding of your partner and how they're different from you, and them getting to understand that about you. And I feel like I don't even need to know his chart to know that my fiance is the manifester for sure. Like I'm sure that there's a lot of people listening that are like, I
I
haven't
know.
done the quiz yet, but I know what I am based on your
I know.
ears, like, which is so crazy too that people can really identify with the type just from hearing the
Isn't
common
that crazy?
characteristics. Yes.
I was in LA recently recording a podcast, and the podcast host didn't know her birth time, But I was like meeting her and talking to her, and I had like a very specific idea. I was like, she has to be a manifester. She definitely has this way of making decisions. And then I asked her at the end, I was like, what do you think? She's like, I'm for sure a manifester. And I definitely have this decision making. And what was also so funny is we then looked at her two daughters and her husband, and we actually never pulled up my phone to look up their charts. We just use the framework of the types to talk about them. And like they just all left the conversation being like, I have so much clarity. And I was like, wait, we never actually looked up their design. So like highly recommend looking up your design, of course. But I think it just validating what you're saying, that like just the framework, just the moment to step back and be like, how do I operate is so useful, because I think we so often are moving through life on autopilot and don't take a moment to step back and be like, but wait, how do I make decisions? And how does my energy move day to day? How do I find opportunities? And honestly, just asking ourselves those questions, being presented with different frameworks of doing it, can just provide a lot of clarity on its own.
100%. And especially as it shows up in communication with other people and
Yeah.
understanding what do they need in this relationship, in a friendship, in a work dynamic provides so much value so people not only feel fulfilled, but they actually are achieving what they want to achieve in life because they are able to tap into that part of them that is like so inherent.
Yes.
What about physical health? Does this show up in any way? Like, can we use this for insight in our wellness and
Mm.
physical health?
It can, there are, and just to kind of remind people, there are so many parts beyond the type that can like speak to those things a little bit more. But what I would say for you physically, for manifesting generator and for generators, is like part of what allows you to rest well and rest deeply at night is to fully use up your energy. An aligned manifesting generator, like they wake up in the morning, like resourced and energetic, like maybe not immediately, but eventually, and then kind of are able to use up their energy throughout the day in ways that feel very satisfying and also allow them to expend that powerful energy. And they drop into bed feeling so delightfully spent. They're like, I left it all in the field. I feel exhausted and now I can sleep well. If manifesting generators are not fully using up their energy, or if they're not actually using it in ways that feel very satisfying, it's often really hard to sleep and it's hard to rest. Whereas I think for projectors, reflectors, and manifestors, those types don't have that same consistent energy. And so for them, where they can feel the most burnt out is like when they're trying to be really consistent. We all obviously need rest. It just shows up differently for like those types, kind of building more rest in, building more pause in, checking with our energy day to day, letting it change, letting it evolve is often how they feel best. And they often do best when they can get into bed before they're tired and let themselves like unwind into sleep. And those types also might do really well sleeping in their own energy. Like even if they live with a partner, sleeping on the couch or in a separate bedroom when they get a chance, it's a really good way to just kind of like shake off everyone else's energy and return to themselves. So I think kind of building in more rest and allowing themselves to be unproductive can often make them feel better.
It's such like an energy management thing too
Yes.
of like how you are taking care of your energy has to feel different. So like when we talk about output being optimal, like showing up as your best self to meetings or to your partner or to your family, the way that you have to do that is through a lot of what human design tells you how you have to recharge and also manage your own energy.
Exactly.
Mm,
Yeah. And again, we can just, I think where we so often get stuck in life is we just see what's worked for other people and we assume it will work for us. And then we try it
yeah.
on and we're like, something's wrong with me. Why isn't it working? Whereas a manifesting generator might be able to kind of work up until they go to bed because they've got to use up the last bit of that energy. Whereas, like for me, if I try to work up till when I go to bed, I like can never go to sleep because I'm so overly stimulated and like didn't give myself that time to let it all go. So we just all need such different things.
It's so true. To wrap up, if you could leave our audience with like 3 tips or something, like what would you say are a few ways to apply human design to your life that you have seen are the most transformative and life-changing?
So specific to the design. So maybe I'll just give a tip for each type. Is
Yeah,
that
that'd be
cool?
great. Perfect.
So I think as a manifesting generator, like often manifesting generators can get a little bit off track when they are just like holding on to commitments because they think they should, because they once said yes, even though it no longer feels like the right thing for them. So I would say as a manifesting generator, just taking inventory often to ask yourself, is there anything I'm still committed to that like I'm actually no longer available for? And the answer might be like, I still have to stay committed because it's providing financially for my family or because it's family related or just something else. But like just asking yourself that question hopefully will give you permission to pivot more often, let things go, try things out. Like that's just part of who you are. And I would say one other thing to play with is like if there's a thing that's been showing up in your world that you feel this like gravitational pull towards, you're like, I just need to study or learn or explore this thing, I would just follow it because it's so easy for manifesting generators to talk themselves out of that gut feeling because they don't know where it will take them. but your job is not to know where it's going to take you. It's to just kind of follow that natural excitement and then see where it takes you. For generators, similar, I would just kind of follow that natural excitement and see where it takes you. And I would also, one thing that can be really revolutionary for generators is if you're having a hard time making a decision, it can be really useful to have somebody, and this is true for you too as well, actually, have somebody ask you really specific questions that help you drop into your gut feeling and get out of your head about it. So an example of that would be, I was talking to somebody yesterday who really wanted to leave her job. And she was like, I don't know whether I should do it. Like, is it the wrong decision? What should I do? And so I sat with her and I said, is right now the right time to leave the job? And she said, absolutely yes. So like the answer was incredibly clear, but she wasn't being asked in a way that really spoke to her gut. So specific yes, no questions are your greatest tool to access the gut. And it can be as simple as like, do you want Italian for dinner? But that too can be helpful. Okay, projectors. Oh my gosh. So often projectors don't give themselves permission to take rest, and they feel like even rest has to be productive. Take another course, listen to another podcast, fold laundry, all the things. So I would actually encourage the projectors to carve out a moment. It might be an hour, it might be 10 minutes to just like be intentionally unproductive. Do a thing that feels restful and nourishing. For me, it's 100% reading fiction, and just like give yourself a moment and see how you feel on the other side. So kind of beginning to detach from this need to be constantly productive and moving. For manifestors, I would carve out some time in your week to kind of just like de-stimulate, shut off all the external stimulations and just see if anything arises within you, like an urge to do something. And my encouragement for you is just to follow it. So often manifestors talk themselves out of it. I think by following these urges that arise, you're going to start to realize that like there's just always something there, and it's going to just keep building and building and building. So taking action on a thing that you feel inspired to do, even if it feels terrifying. And then for reflectors, oh gosh, I know I already said it, but I'll say it again. Like, what is the space that you feel the most drawn to right now? And just go spend time there. If you love the coffee shop, go sit there. If you love this online community, join the community and see what happens. Like, so much magic emerges for reflectors when they're just in the right space.
It's so cool. It's like we have this like blueprint to
Yeah,
our best life, how we
that's
we
it.
individually are supposed to live. It's so cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Erin, if people want to work with you, find you, where can they get more of you? And also, if this resonated for someone, I'd love if you could share some like next steps, like where should someone go to learn more?
Cool. Yeah, I would love that. So I'm Erin Claire Jones. My website is humandesignblueprint.com. On Instagram, I'm at Erin Claire Jones and Human Design Blueprint. If you want to dive deeper, I just came out with a book. It's called How Do You Choose? And it really is focused on how human design can be practically applied to relationships and career and all those things. So if you want to learn more about that, it is the place. Just search How Do You Choose? A human design guide to what's best for you at work and love and in life. It's super accessible, even if you're totally new. I also sell custom guides on my website where it really just kind of walks you through all the key pieces of your design. Again, incredibly accessible, like even if you're totally new, but also will be useful if you've been diving in for a while. And we have a discount code EveryGirl10. And then I also sell courses and sessions and all those things.
I know that there's gonna be a lot of every girls that are like, okay, you've changed my life in 45
Oh,
minutes. So tell me more. I personally am like ready to learn more about it. It's so cool. And it's so fascinating. If nothing else, I feel like it's like so much validation
yeah.
of so many different things that people probably needed the validation for. So thank you so much for joining me and sharing all of this with us.
It is so my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I sure did. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It really makes a huge difference for our show so we can keep growing and bringing the content that you love. If you want more info, you can find us at the Evergirl Podcast on Instagram or theeverygirlpodcast.com. Talk to you next week.